Before we start the show, remember that Dave Smith Unleashed is brought to you by MTS. Call them at 800-640-6873 for reliable, on-time delivery, compliance you can count on, round-the-clock support, superior communication, experienced logistics partners, and mention the Dave Smith Unleashed podcast and get 20% off on your next shipment. So for all your freight, trucking, and shipping needs, it's only calling MTS at 800-640-6873, 800-640-6873.
Dave Smith, iconic interview. Iconic.
Dave Smith with you back here on Dave Smith Unleashed. And of course, a special guest today, as always, a longtime friend of the show, an NBA Hall of Famer, top 50 player of all time, and always love talking National Basketball Association with the great Rick Barry. Rick, I appreciate you coming on today. I know you're traveling, so thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, well, we had a lot of crazy weather up in the Northeast. I'm heading up there. So anyway, I got some time. I hope life has been treating you well. Good luck and congratulations on your podcast.
Thank you, sir. First, before we get started here, I know you were good friends with the late Dr. Jerry Buss and Jeannie and the family. And what were your thoughts about the end of an era out here in Los Angeles, Rick? 46 years now. There's going to be a change of ownership to Mark Walter, the gentleman who owns the Los Angeles Dodgers. And what were your thoughts about the Buss family selling?
Every good thing comes to an end at times. Everything runs its course. I think the other owners are really thrilled that it happened because now the value of the franchise is just went up incrementally. It's kind of when Bomber went and paid $2 million for the Clippers, and now all of a sudden they're paying $10 billion for the Lakers. So yeah, I'm sure all the owners are very happy because now the value of the franchises have gone up incrementally. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. A lot of decisions have to be made, but that's the part of sports. I mean, nothing's predictable when it comes to, especially basketball. I tell people, watch basketball, always expect the unexpected. Having been a part of the biggest upset in the history of the league, I know firsthand that, crazy things can happen.
Yeah, not a bad investment. $68 million turns into $10 billion 46 years later by the Buss family. Not bad.
Not bad at all. Hell, a friend of mine could have bought the Warriors years ago for $18 million. It wasn't a good investment back then, and that $18 million now is probably worth. Well, I'm sure the Warriors are probably up there around $8-9 billion now. I know they were like 5 or 6, but with this purchase of the Lakers, the Warriors and the success that they've had, and the way that the fans have supported the team, I'm sure it's probably up in their $8-9 billion range as well.
I read a story the other day, Rick, that when Magic Johnson came out of Michigan State in '79, Phil Knight came to him and said, he was just starting Nike at the time, and he said, I don't have any money here, but I'll give you a whole bunch of stock. He offered him all kinds of stock in Nike, and then Magic decided to take the Converse deal because it was money up front, and he says, who knows about this guy, Phil Knight? I don't know, man. The company might not take off, and I wound up with nothing. So he took a Converse deal for about $100,000 a year. That is worth now $8 billion had he taken that stock from Nike back in the day.
Yeah, well, I mean, I have horror stories like that as well. I mean, I turned down, I could have had 5% ownership in the freaking Warriors and turned it down back in those days. But back then, didn't look like a very good investment. So it shows you how stupid I am.
Well, Rick, we have a new NBA champion, the Oklahoma City Thunder, and I know you talk a lot about organizations and how they should be run, and I think this is a great example. It's the smallest market team ever to win an NBA championship. They've got the 24th highest payroll in the league. They're still under the salary cap. They've got 9 first-round picks coming up in the next 5 years, so they can come up with a really good run here. I think Sam Presti and that front office have done a remarkable job putting this team together, and they're the second youngest team ever to win an NBA championship.
Yeah, well, that's, the way you do it is you just pick the right personnel. I mean, I'm happy for them because, I'm sad for the people in Seattle because that's the Seattle team that left. I know how heartbroken the Seattle Supersonic fans were when they left Seattle to go to Oklahoma City. And then the fans there, I know how disappointed they were because they came very close to have a chance to win when Kevin Durant was back there. They had a heck of an array of talent. Just look at some of the players who were there who have gone on to have incredible careers. And they came up a little bit short, but time heals all wounds, like they say. And they made some really good decisions. They rebuilt the team, and now they've turned it into a championship. With, as you pointed out, with all those draft picks, if they make the right moves and they don't lose a lot of people and break up the success that they have, this could be a team that can go on one of those really great runs, for this rest of this decade. So it's going to be fun to see what they're able to do.
They got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, the MVP of the regular season and the postseason here, world champion, and 6 number 1 picks for Paul George. Not a bad deal, huh?
Yeah, I mean, they were smart in the moves that they made. Now it's just a matter of how smart they are with the people that they pick, with the draft picks that they have, and how well the coaches do as far as utilizing the talent that he's given in the most efficient and effective manner possible. That's what it really comes down to. You can't win without the talent. And then the talent can't win unless it's put in the right situation to utilize that talent effectively.
Well, speaking of talent, your Golden State Warriors, Rick, they made it to the conference semifinals in the Western Conference. Steph Curry still looks like he's in his prime, still playing great basketball. They still have Draymond Green. Made a good trade to get a good player in Jimmy Butler. Brandon Podziemski and Kuminga look like good young players here, but they lost in 5 in the second round to Minnesota. What do they need to do from this point forward to get over that hump and maybe take the next step?
Well, I think they might have surprised some people if Steph had stayed healthy. They were playing exceptionally well, had a great record. Jimmy was a great addition to the team, kind of salvaged the season for them. But they have a lot of decisions to make. The Kuminga thing has been kind of a soap opera. It'd be interesting to see what's going to happen there and whether they make any moves and they trade him or they're going to keep him. So a lot of unknowns when it comes to that, but that's usually the case with teams when you start moving personnel around and you start making changes. You just don't know. It's so hard to evaluate it because, what's on paper doesn't mean anything. It's how do they play together on the court? Does the player take his game to another level? I've always felt Kuminga hasn't taken his game to the level necessary. Yes, he's gotten better, but I still don't think he's at the level that he needs to be. But for him, I mean, they're multimillionaires. They're paying these guys multi-millions of dollars, a lot of players. So a lot of players have a lot of shortcomings and they don't have great all-around games, and yet they're making multi-millions of dollars. So it all comes down to the chemistry and how guys are willing to play unselfishly, play as a team, and just take the attitude that who gives a crap who gets it done as long as you get it done, and make a commitment to defense, because no team has won an NBA title in the history of the league that was a bad defensive team. You don't have to be the best team, but you certainly can't be in the lower half and expect to win a championship. So defense is a prime element for it. And Oklahoma City was a tough defensive team. That's one of the reasons they're champions.
You brought up Kevin Durant. We've talked about this before, Rick. He was in such a great situation with the Warriors, back-to-back world championships. And, players go their whole careers. You look at John Stockton and Karl Malone and Charles Barkley, some great players, never win a championship, and they would give anything to win one. He was in a great situation. He'd won 2 in a row, and the Warriors probably could have run off 2 or 3 more at least with that group they had. But the guy just never seems to be happy. He wanted out. He just forced another trade now, going to the Houston Rockets. The guy just never seems to be happy and not really enjoying his career the way he should.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I just heard a lot of different stories. I mean, they tried to get him, I think, when they came for trade deadline this year, and supposedly it was said that he wasn't really happy with Steve Kerr and the way Steve Kerr's offense was being run. I don't know. He's got issues. He's one of the greatest, players in the history of the game. An anomaly, as you know, I always talk about players who are anomalies, who have played a position and or play it differently and have different size or whatever. I mean, nobody's been his size playing the position like he does. It's really kind of sad. I was very disappointed as a Warrior that he didn't stay there. I mean, my God, to have a team like that, and you go to a team and you have a 2-time MVP allowing you to become the star of the team, and I don't know. I mean, some people, I guess, are never really super happy, but what a tough situation it was for him to leave. But he made the move. It hasn't worked out for him. And, it's amazing to me, too. I mean, just showing you, thank God for modern medicine. The guys that are coming back from these Achilles injuries, well, let's hope that's the case for the guys that now are dealing with that, with Tatum having to come up with that, and Halliburton. I mean, it seems like we're getting a lot of guys with these Achilles problems. I think a lot of that has to do with young players today play, I think, too much basketball in AAU, and I think they're breaking their bodies down, and eventually it catches up to them. Nobody, especially at the younger ages, should be playing 6 and 7 games over a 2-day period from a Friday night to a Sunday afternoon. That's crazy, and they have to knock that off. I think it's really, in the long haul, going to hurt players physically.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question, Rick. These Achilles injuries. Shaquille O'Neal at the end of his career, Kevin Durant in the finals against the Toronto Raptors, Tyrese Halliburton we just saw, Jason Tatum, and all of them were diagnosed with calf strains before it happened. And it just makes me wonder, Rick, are they being misdiagnosed by the medical staff? Because the calf is connected to the Achilles. It's right there. They get diagnosed with a calf strain, and then the Achilles snaps. Is the medical staff not diagnosing these guys properly? What's going on here?
Well, I think they're diagnosing them properly. It's just I think they're realizing now that if you got a calf strain, you better be a little bit more cautious about letting the guy come out and giving him more time to heal. Because obviously, it just seems to me that the calf strain is putting more strain on the Achilles for some reason. Because if it's not functioning as well as it should, something else has to be working harder to make up for that. And it looks as though that's the Achilles, and the Achilles is saying, hey, I really don't want to work this hard. So, they got to really analyze that and see what's happening. And now that the teams are paying so much money for players, even with the load management, which is hard for me to deal with because I can't even imagine not playing a game if I felt good, but they're doing that. But I think they have to really take a serious look that if somebody has a calf injury now, I think you just got to give them more time and get them totally healed before you put them back there on the court, because you don't want them to be able to do something serious to the Achilles. But even with that, it's still incredible that these guys are coming back and playing at such a high level. And of course, Kevin Durant is one of them.
Well, they got a new one now, Rick. You're going to love this. You talk about load management. The New Orleans Pelicans were using burst, B-U-R-S-T, burst management with Zion Williamson when they were watching him about getting injured. That means whenever he made a strong burst and a quick step to the basket, they bring him right out of the game because of the medical staff. Burst management, that's a new one.
Yeah, well, he's so big and powerful and such an incredible physical specimen. I think I think these guys have to try to learn that you can be an incredible athlete and stuff, but you don't have to jump as high as you can every single time. You don't have to be incredibly explosive and jump, a foot and a half over the rim with your arms and stuff. I just do as little as you need to do in order to get the job done. It doesn't have to be top 10 ESPN type of play. Save yourself. Only do that if it's entirely necessary, and just be cautious. I mean, they're making so much damn money now. They should be cautious, and that's why the teams, I think, are cutting back. I've averaged over 40 minutes a game a lot of seasons that I played. In fact, I think it was over 45. And I didn't mind it because I love playing. But players today, majority of them, 36 minutes, about 3/4 of a game is usually pretty standard for guys now. So I can understand how the teams are looking at it that way. But the guys just have to be a little smarter. Take your rest at times. Here's the way you do it. Even if you play a lot of minutes, get a rebound, throw it out, let them fast break, stay back and rest. You're not hurting your team if you do that. Well, you hurt your team is if you rest on defense.
Well, as great as Luka Doncic is, I know after the season, J.J. Redick said he needs to get into better physical condition. You can tell he's not in the best shape he can be, and he's not a good defender. So I think he should stay in L.A. in the offseason and learn from LeBron. LeBron's going to be 41 years old next year. He's still in tip-top physical condition. He's still, 26, 8, and 8, and shooting 50% from the floor. He's remarkable going into his 23rd season.
Yeah, he deserves a lot of credit for his dedication to the game. I heard he spends well over $1 million on people to work with him and do the things he needs to do to stay healthy. So here's a guy who takes his career and his livelihood seriously, and he puts the time, the effort into it, the work into it, and is willing to spend, some of the multi-millions of dollars he has, and it's certainly worth it. And there's very few guys who have played at 40 years of age put up those numbers. There's guys who can't put up those numbers in their teens and 20s. I mean, it's pretty special. It really is.
Yeah, they keep a stat in the NBA, Rick. It's called blow-bys. Like when the man you're guarding blows by you and gets to the rim, and it's not even close. By far, Luka has the most in the league of getting blown by. So is it just conditioning with him and Will and trying to get into a lot better shape because he's not a good defender?
Yeah, I kind of called him, he and the Joker. I said, these European guys look like Baby Huey, the cartoon character. No, all flab, no definition. The Joker actually has gotten much better this season, and he's an incredible player. And Luka's a hell of a player, but he really does need to take it a little bit more seriously, get in the gym, work out, because as you know, the sophistication in what they do now for training for athletes. It used to be, you go out and you lift and stuff. We did nothing. We had no help whatsoever. We had no strength coach, agility coach, dietitian. We had nothing. Yeah. Now what sport do you play? What position do you play in that sport? And they have a regimen for you to work on certain drills, certain lifting techniques in order to make you as efficient as possible for the sport you play and the position you play. That's how sophisticated it's become. And what Luka needs to do is to dedicate himself to that and turn him into a much more physical specimen, pick up his quickness, pick up his agility, and become a better all-around basketball player. And that's one of the reasons why Dallas was willing to let him go.
Well, Dallas, that's not looking like such a bad trade now that they jump from 11-1 in the draft and they get Cooper Flagg from Duke. It looks like he's going to be a really good NBA player. So now they get AD and Flagg, and not such a bad trade now for Luka, because I don't know how much you've seen of Flagg, but he's a real interesting talent, Rick, and he should be a senior in high school this year. He came out a year early from high school, so he's not even going to be, 19 till after the season starts this year.
Yeah, he's an incredible talent with his size and his all-around abilities, and he does work and play the defense, comes over and has weak side help blocking shots, and can finish strong. I would say he's one of those guys that's kind of a lock if he stays healthy to be one of the great players in the league. I mean, Kevin Durant was that way. When I saw him in college, I was sitting next to God rest his soul, Jerry West, my dear friend. I miss him. We were sitting watching Kevin Durant in college play, and I looked at him and said, Jerry, this kid's going to be unbelievable. He said, he sure as hell is. I mean, and that's the kind of way when you saw, Flagg, and you say, wow, this guy's got an amazing talent, because he really doesn't have a glaring weakness at all. And he'll just get better and bigger and stronger because he's going to have the sophistication of all the training it's about. And I mean, now I remember going to see my son Brent with the San Antonio Spurs. They drink something before they have their workout routines. When they're done, they drink something else to help them. I mean, I have no idea what that stuff is about. I mean, I just had to show up at training camp and be ready to play basketball and didn't have any help whatsoever. It's a totally different world. And these players are foolish if they don't take advantage of what they have available to them.
Yeah, and Jerry West, I know when he was working with the Clippers, I know I spoke with him and had him on a bunch of times, and he loved Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, his rookie year with the Clippers when he was 18, 19 years old. He did not want to include him in that trade for Paul George of Oklahoma City. He knew what he had in this kid, and he held out and he held out and he held out, and they didn't listen to him, ownership and the president of basketball operations. He did not want to trade him. I think it turns out, they'd be a lot better off with him in those 6 number 1 draft picks right now.
Yeah, well, recognizing talent is something that is a specialty. I mean, and Jerry was actually outstanding at doing that. And also he wasn't afraid to take a guy who was projected to be, maybe in late first round pick. And if he had a chance to get him in the top 10 or something of that nature, a lot of general managers, as far as I'm concerned, are basically to do what I call, and I'll clean it up, butt protecting. Basically, they draft someone who's projected to be in a certain place in the draft, which if the guy doesn't make it, he's a bust, because everybody thought that's where he was. What happened? The guy was a bust. But if you take a guy who's scheduled to be in the top, the 20 to 30 range, and you take him in the top 10 and he doesn't make it, your butt's on the line. And that's a great way to protect yourself, to not do that. You have to have guts to do that. And Jerry was a good, recognizing talent. I mean, I think personally, I don't look and get hung up on the athleticism of a guy. I look to see, first and foremost, does he have a natural feel for the game, which can't be taught. You can teach guys a lot of things to make them better when it comes to the technical aspect of the game of basketball, but you can't teach them a feel for the game.
You and I have talked about this a lot. I think the single biggest mistake general managers and evaluators make in the NBA is that they draft for need. I've always said take the best player available. I don't care who's on your roster, because when you draft for need, you take Sam Bowie over Michael Jordan, stuff like that. Well, we need a center. We already have Jim Paxson. Well, what do we need Jordan for? You take the best player on the board, Rick. That's what I think. Forget need.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I mean, unless if you have a glaring weakness and you do have somebody who can fill that, who is an outstanding player. But again, it comes down to not the great athlete or whatever. It's does he understand the game and play the game the right way and have that natural feel for the game? Because that's the difference, I think, between a good player and a great player, is that natural feel. You could see it in them very easily if you watch carefully. I saw that in LeBron when I saw him play in high school. I saw that in Kevin Durant as well. And fortunately for him, he actually went to a team that helped make him better because they played the game the right way. When he went to the Warriors, I said, Kevin Durant has become a better player by getting to play for the Warriors the way that they play.
Yep.
He'll become more of a facilitator. He wasn't a guy that was getting 5-6 assists a game. He became a much better basketball player, playing the game the way it should be played because he had the talent to do it.
What do you think about the Lakers this year? With Luka coming back, hopefully in better shape. LeBron, he's 41 now. Eventually, Father Time is going to catch up with him, but it hasn't yet. You got Austin Reeves and Luka, who are a very poor defensive backcourt there. Then behind them, they don't have a lot of help with the big men defending either. So they got problems defensively.
Well, everybody's talking about the trade Luka. He's a heck of a player, and getting him for the future. Figuring LeBron going to retire. I mean, I'm reading stories where he hasn't said that he's not he still may retire from everything I'm reading. Who knows? I hope for the sake of the game that he stays because he is just one of the greatest players ever to play the game. But they don't have the depth. I don't think that they need to have. And again, it's the defense as well, and it's not your individual defense because it's team defense that wins. Individual defense doesn't win championships. Team defense wins championships. It has to be a total commitment on the part of the team. And if you're blessed enough to have a couple of guys who are good individual defenders, that's just a bonus. But you can't be a bad defensive team and expect to win, and you have to have depth. I mean, just look at the team. Look at the Oklahoma City, the depth that they had. The Warriors winning. It was their bench that was so valuable to them. Hell, even back when we won in '75, it was our bench that was such an important factor for our success. So you have to have a well-balanced team. So the Lakers have some work to do as far as putting together a team that has an opportunity to win another championship.
And before we let you go, Rick, how's your son Canyon doing? I was a big fan of him at College of Charleston in Florida, and I thought certainly he should be playing in the National Basketball Association.
Yeah, well, let's not.
How's he doing?
Get into that. He just never really got the chance. It was crazy. I mean, he was on a team when he averaging 13 points a game on 7 shots in the G League, shooting 48 from twos and 45 from threes and 85 from the free throw line. He couldn't even get a 10-day contract.
Wow.
And had a guy up there making $7 million a year playing the same position who was shooting 26 from threes, 30-something from twos, and 60-something from the free throw line. So that's just stupidity on the part of the team to not take a kid and give him an opportunity to play when, with the pedigree that my son had. But, and so he got frustrated with it. And so he committed to 3x3 basketball when USA Basketball came.
That's right.
And by doing so, he got a chance to be an Olympian. It was just a shame that Jimmer Fredette actually, got hurt, and they only had to play with 3 guys. They had 3 games. They lost by 2 points, and they should have made it into the medal round. And it was just unfortunate, but he had 2 unbelievable games and a great experience, and he'll remember it forever. He'll forever be an Olympian. So he's done something that no other Barry has ever done: become an Olympian.
That's a big regret of yours, isn't it? You tried out. Well, you were in camp with the '64 Olympic team, and you should have been on the team. And I think you told me in the past you were told when camp started they weren't going to put you on the team no matter what you did. So regret of yours.
That didn't happen. I wasn't even picked to go and try out, as I was one of the top scorers in the league, in the country, and All-America player. And I finally got invited because Gary Brad's from Ohio State couldn't. He backed out at the last minute. But we were told that we were going to be chosen based upon our performance in the trials, and that was a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you. And Joe Lapchick, the famous coach from St. John's and pro player, came up to me when I'm walking off the court after I thought I played well there. Said, "Young man, you're not going to make the Olympic team, but you're going to be a great pro basketball player." And I'm going, "Well, thank you, but how do you know that I'm not making the?" He already knew that I wasn't going to be on the team.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Rick, I know you got to get going. You got a flight to catch. Are you promoting anything here before we let you go?
Oh, Medicilleaf.com, MEDICILEAF, Medicilleaf.com, GoSleeves.com, GoSleeves.com, and pickleball, go Titan Pickleball, TitanPickleball.com for paddles and pickleball. Unbelievable.
Wow.
The code for the first 2 is RB24, and then it's TPRB for a discount on the Titan Pickleball paddles, which are great, great paddles. So that's what I got going. We'll wish you the best this summer. Have a great holiday for you and all of your listeners. And always great to talk to you.
You too. Thanks, Rick. Have a safe flight. Happy 4th to you and the family. Always love having you on.
Take care. Bye-bye.
There he goes, the great Rick Barry, the Hall of Famer, top 50 player of all time. I actually got his autograph one time when I was in 7th grade, hanging when I played at halftime. They used to have little kids' games at halftime at the Forum. He was out there warming up on the other end, and I got his autograph. Never forgotten it when I was in 7th grade. Naismith and Naismith Unleashed. Make sure you follow me on Twitter to find out what all the next great shows are coming up, and we'll talk to you next time.